It's my feel-good breakfast show.
You beautiful beasts, welcome back to it, your feel-good breakfast show. It is Expresso, and it's time for another installment of the Culinary Hotline Bling.
Ting, ting, ting!
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Oh, we're joined by one of our favorite chefs, Chef Clem, and if you have any questions for Chef Clem in the kitchen, all your challenges in the kitchen, or if you need any help getting out of those really sticky foodie situations, we want you to give us a call right now, 021 110 552. That is the number. And the questions have come through from social media, from the phone calls all over the place.
We get smoke signals. We get phone
Birds
calls, little
come here,
pigeons.
They
people,
land with like notes from people from all walks of life all over the world.
And it makes us
Chef
happy.
Clem questions. And
it makes us so happy.
Us very, very happy. Well, we did get one question. This was sent, and I've got it here. It's from Jocelyn Holland, okay, who says, why, if I make a pie, the pastry on the top is nice and brown, but underneath the pastry, still uncooked? Please help, Chef Clem.
Okay, so
this is a good question.
This is a good one,
yeah,
because it can go very wrong, and there's nothing like more like you just put so much love and attention into a pie,
yes,
and then you cook it and that happens, you get a soggy bottom.
Yeah.
But there's an amazing and quick way to fix it. So what you do is you line the bottom of your dish with your pastry first.
Okay.
Then you blind bake it.
What does that mean?
It means you put some, what I normally do is I put a piece of foil over that pastry.
The first layer of pastry, okay.
Oh, so you got your dish lined with pastry, put a bit of foil on, then I put rice on top of that. Then I put it into the oven to pre-bake.
Okay.
Okay? And what happens is it kind of sits. After 10 minutes, I take that foil out with all the rice, I keep it in a little parcel. Then I can let it go for another 5 minutes. That's going to brown your pastry. And that's going to be the part where you actually cook your pastry, so you're not going to end up with a soggy bottom. Then you add your filling, then you add your top layer of pastry, and then you bake it again.
This is good. Okay, so blind baking is certainly the technique that you need to be taking to. It's got to do with the rice, I suppose.
Use rice, use beans, use anything that can give you a nice bit of weight onto that pastry.
Okay.
And that's food safe. Don't use things like, I can't find examples of things you shouldn't put on there, because just use food safe ingredients.
Okay. Okay, I love that. Well, we got another question from Maureen out in Johannesburg, who asks, how do you make gluten-free cake flour? You
know, making gluten-free cake flour, it's such a mission, and you have to go and find all these different ingredients. Today, in today's age, 2021, life is so easy for us. So all I do is I go to Woolies and I buy the all-purpose gluten-free flour.
You get it in a box like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And that's all you need. So if you have a gluten sensitivity or if you're gluten intolerant, that's what you go for. And you use that for your breads, your pizza bases, your scones, your biscuits, your cakes, and it's everything. Even crumbing. Someone said, how do I crumb my chicken? I want crumb chicken, but I'm gluten intolerant.
Can use that for it
and I was
well.
like, that's what you're going to use, yeah.
You know what I really have liked and I've come to appreciate is the fact that we are also sensitive to the fact that people have certain things that they don't like or certain allergies to certain things. That gluten is now so much more common and easily accessible than it was, say, even 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
Woolies have made that so easy, and so many of the products that they've got on there. And this, I think, is certainly going to be one that a lot of people are going to really enjoy. It's all-purpose gluten flour. Ah, telefono!
Go for it. You must do the proper
Thank you very much for calling the Culinary Hotline. Blade Sing, Ting, Ting. Tabisa speaking with Chef Clem on standby. Who's speaking? Is this Rose from East London on the phone? That's what it says on my caller ID. Rose?
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Rose.
Morning. Hello, yes. When I make gravy, it's always a hit and miss. Can you give me some tips and tricks to always make a good gravy?
A rich gravy. Did I get that right? So, Rose, making your own gravy is extremely satisfying because it's just so much like better. It's just like, you know, it's just so hearty and homey. The best thing I do is I always buy, so if I'm making a chicken gravy, I end up, specifically when I roast chicken, I shred the meat off and use it for something else. Take those bones, and then I roast the bones again. And then I put those bones into some water with a mirepoix. Celery, onions, carrots. Then I add some garlic, I add some Baileys, and I put it in a slow simmer. The trick to making every gravy starts up with a good stock. And the trick to a good stock is slowly extracting that flavor out of the bones.
That's it.
Once you get that beautiful extraction into your stock, which will take about 2 to 3 hours, this is a labor of love, it takes some time.
Yes.
Then you can start turning up the heat and reducing it down. It'll actually start, there's so much gelatinous bits and cartilage in that chicken, it'll actually thicken itself without you having to thicken it. Beef as well. Beef bones, so inexpensive.
Yeah.
Roast your bones, get it into a pot. Same other ingredients to add some aroma and flavor.
Yes.
Get that stock, reduce it down, and you'll end up with if you take it all the way down, you end up with a jus. Sounds very fancy. It's like that little drizzle chefs use. Yeah. But when you get into that nice consistency where you got that nice beefy flavor, what I always do, take a little bit of flour and softened butter, mix the two together and make a paste, and stir that through that beef stock to give you a nice, thick gravy.
Beautiful. Rose, are you satisfied with that answer? Rose is gone, and silence means consent. Means she agrees with what you're saying.
All right.
And we know that, yes, making a gravy and making your own gravy specifically, I think it really can be so satisfying because I think you're so much more in control of what is going in and how much of the flavor
if you want
can
some
control
rosemary
the
in
profile.
there, put some rosemary in there, thyme in there.
Yeah.
It's a good question because I don't know if you've noticed, the sun's coming out a little later in the morning, staying a little early in the evenings. Winter's coming. And you want to have those stocks ready for your curries, for your stews, for your soups.
You need
that's
to
a
be
good
like
one.
a soldier, prepared for the winter. And then we've got Tony.
Tony.
We've got Tony, who asks the question, how to make a red velvet cake. Hers is always soggy in the middle, which nobody wants with any cake whatsoever. And a red velvet cake, that's a favorite in South Africa. For me, I mean, I love it, I love it. We've actually got Tony here on the line. I want her to ask this question.
Tony!
Tony!
Hi, Clem. How are you?
you?
Hi, Tabs.
Hi.
How are you, Tabs?
Good, good. How are you doing? Your question is very good, and I love it because red velvet is a big South African favorite, right? And clearly for
Indeed.
you as well. And please tell us what the challenge is. Yours goes soggy in the middle.
Yeah, in the beginning, I often make the cakes because that's what I do all the time. I bake.
Yeah.
But then there was this, I don't know what happened recently or lately. When I do make the red velvet cake, it sags in the middle, both of them. Sags in the middle.
I've got the best news for
so
you.
I cannot understand.
Yeah. Tony, I've got the best news for you. It's not you. It's not you. It's just the recipe. It's just the recipe. So recipes, when it comes to baking, I mean, when I cook in general, I like cooking with emotion.
Yeah.
Like, you just like, I feel like this, add more of that, da, 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 da. Baking, not so much.
Okay.
Baking, you actually want to go through your recipe. My rule is, when it comes to baking, I read the recipe from ingredients to the method. I do the whole thing twice. So I really understand what's supposed to be happening in the recipe before I start. It's called your mise en place. It's everything you set out, the preparation that you need before you get started cooking.
Because, so you know, I suppose, you know, Tony, baking, I think from my lessons, from just hanging out with Chef Clem, is that it's quite a science. The measurements are quite precise. Everything is so specific.
It is, absolutely. So what I'm going to suggest to you, Tony, is I'm using the Wood's Taste recipe for their red velvet cake, and it's so delicious. It works every time. So what I've got is I've got some eggs and I've got some oil. So normally when we cream, it's a creaming method, and the more I keep on working it, sorry, it's the eggs and the sugar together, you kind of see that it starts to lighten in color. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of oil, and the oil adds a little bit of moisture to it.
Okay.
Keeps it nice and like, you know, we like that moist red velvet cake. It's absolutely,
Yeah.
the oil does that, that's good. Then we're going to add some extra moistness and a bit of tang. And here's where the science happens.
Yeah.
We're adding a bit of yogurt to it.
Okay. What does that do?
It creates that structure and that texture inside your cake. So the yogurt for me, do you use yogurt in your red velvet cakes?
I haven't tried it. I would next time.
Yogurt in baked goods in general is so
I
good.
normally use coffee. I normally use black coffee.
Okay, black coffee.
Absolutely. And I think the recipe you've got is trying to pair that chocolatey flavor, because red velvet is actually, it's got chocolate in it, cocoa. And we know that coffee brings out the flavor of the cocoa. So that's good on them for doing that. Okay, hit it with a yogurt. We're going to hit it with vanilla. Taji, can you add some baking powder and some bicarb to the flour for me? And that also, you're doing it. That also adds, combined with that, with the yogurt, causes a reaction which gives us some air in our cake.
Okay.
So that's very important.
You're aerating it.
We're aerating it.
In kitchen terms.
I've got some cocoa for you.
Cocoa
that's going in.
Cocoa master!
Cocoa is, like I said, it's one of the biggest flavors.
Does that throw in this?
Yes, yes, yes. You
What
can go
is
for it.
this?
You can go for it. That's the baking powder and the bicarb. I was wondering, are you going to taste it?
Okay, I can taste the aeration
All
in
right.
my mouth.
Okay, so I've got my dry ingredients and I've got my wet ingredients. This is vinegar, another ingredient that helps give that texture. And it's actually a signature element in your red velvet cake. That's going to go into my wet ingredients. So
Yeah.
Tony,
Do you have something to say about the vinegar?
Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
Clem, how many cups of sugar do you have in your recipe?
In the recipe, I will double check for you. I'll go and check the recipe online. And thank you for asking that question, because the amount of sugar you use in your cakes is important, because it not only adds sweetness, but it also helps brown your cakes. The more sugar you have in your cakes, the browner your cakes actually become. I'll go and check that recipe. The recipe is on the website. It is on the website, so I'll go and check that for you now. Okay, I've added some red food powder. You get red food coloring, red food gels, and that gives you your signature color. You can also use beetroot.
What's best to use, Chef Clem?
I prefer using the powder just because look at that vibrant color.
It comes together really, really strong.
And that's
nice.
purely for the color.
What do you use, Tony, for the coloring to get the red color?
I use the red, just the normal liquid red coloring.
Okay,
And you don't need to
you
change
use
that,
That's
yeah.
great. That's
So-
great.
Get the gel, yeah.
Perfect.
But what I wanted to say, Chef Clem, is that most of the red velvet recipes call for 2 cups of sugar or 1.5 cups of sugar. So I thought it could be the problem. I'm not sure.
No,
I stand to be corrected on that.
The recipes differ, and that's perfectly fine. 1.5 to 2 cups of sugar sounds about right, so that's not a problem at all.
Would the amount of sugar,
Okay.
though, could it potentially create a soggy effect? If
Absolutely.
too much or too
Or a
little?
sagging effect.
Absolutely, because we understand when you actually heat sugar, it becomes a liquid. That's
Okay,
all the
that's
factor. All these things happen while your cake's in the oven.
That's
so
it.
That's why it's so important to follow that recipe.
Tony, you are fantastic, and hopefully Chef Clem has answered your kitchen conundrum there. And you can go onto our website, expressoshow.com, if you want this recipe with all of the ingredients that we've used, of course, with, you know, the method and the steps involved in that. But thank you very much for the call, Tony. You're
Tony!
a rock star. Enjoy the cake.
With an eye, thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
bye-bye. Well, the question is, if you have any culinary conundrums, do you have any culinary conundrums or even any kitchen fails? We want to bring them on here and have Chef Clem answer those questions. Give us a call right now. The number 021 110 555, which is going to finish off with the cake here.